So problems 2 and 3 are very similar. Each problem you start with a function, y as a function of x, and you place a point P that has coordinates x, y on the graph of each of the functions. And then in problem number 2, you're supposed to express the distance d from that point on the curve, no matter where it's at, to the point that has coordinates 0, -1. So I labeled that here. And that's what you need to do before you start trying to do anything as far as answering A through D. So if we think about the distance d as a function of x, it would be helpful to express the coordinates of point P as a function of x as well. So we're going to change that y right there. Instead of having x comma y, since y on this function is equal to x squared minus 8, we're just going to replace y with x squared minus 8. So now we have all of the coordinates in terms of x comma y, and we don't have a y in there, so we're good to go. We want to remember that the distance between any 2 points is equal to the square root of the difference in the x coordinates squared plus the difference in the y coordinates squared. So we've talked about that a lot. And so therefore, the distance in terms of x is equal to the square root of the distance between these 2 points is equal to the difference in the x coordinates. Let's go ahead and start with this point here. So x2, let's say, would be x. So the difference in the x coordinates is x minus the x coordinate of the other point, 0, squared, plus the difference in the y coordinates. So if you started with this x coordinate, you want to start with this y coordinate. So x squared minus 8 minus the other y coordinate, which is -1. And we square that. So I need a little bit more room here to clean it up. So just to clean it up, x minus 0 is the same as x squared. And then let's clean this up a little bit. -8 minus -1 is -8 plus 1, which is -7. So we have plus x squared minus 7 quantity squared, and that is our distance as a function of x. To figure out what the distance is between the 2 points, if x happens to be 0, we would replace x with 0, 0 squared plus 0 squared minus 7, so we have -7 squared, which is the square root of 49. 0 squared is 0, -7 squared is 49, and the square root of 49 is 7. And then if we replace x with -1, again, what's inside the parentheses is the x value, the domain value, the input, the independent variable, whatever you want to call it. It's still what you put in, and what you get out is d of x. And so d of -1 is equal to the square root of x, where is it? Okay, here it is. So, and -1 squared, x squared, -1 squared, plus -1 squared minus 7 squared. So what do we have? Let's do a little mental math here. -1 squared is 1, and then we have -1 squared, 1 minus 7, that's -6. And when we square -6, we get 36. So we get the square root of 37. Now for the graphing part of it, you don't have to graph this by hand. You could either use a graphing calculator, which is what I'm going to use, or you could just type the function into Desmos. And so anyway, it's just easier to show you on a graphing calculator how to graph a function. But again, you can use Desmos as well. So x squared plus parentheses x squared minus 7 squared. So it would be helpful to change the window here, and let's see. X could be, well, X could be anything for that matter, so we're not going to change the window at all other than just go from -10 to 10. Oops. Okay, so we'll go from, let's just do this. Zoom 6, zoom standard. This will just be the standard viewing window. So this right here is the graph of d of x. And remember when we calculated d of 0 is 7? Well, if we calculate the value of the function when x is equal to 0, we get 7. So the graph shows us what the y values would be given the x value. In other words, if x is 0, then the distance between the point at 0, 1, 0, -1, and the, let's see, oh, so let me show you. I guess we could use, yeah, we'll use this color. So if x is equal to 0, that means the ordered pair on the graph of y equals x squared minus 8 is 0, -8. And we're calculating the distance between the point 0, -1 and the point 0, -8, which would be 7. And that graph shows that, 0, 7. And then what did we find? We found the value of the function when x was equal to -1. And if you type in a -1, you see the ordered pair -1, 6.083, let's say. And that means if x is equal to -1, we have the distance here would be radical 37, which is, as you can see on the screen, it's 6.0, let's just call it 6.08. All right, and just to confirm that, the square root of 37 should be 6.08. Yep, so that's what we got. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and graph the function. We had 0, 7. It kind of came down like this, went up and around. So there you go.